My full name is Thomas Earl Kraft. Currently, I live on Hawaii's Big Island. Branch of service was Air Force, and I retired at the rank of Major. I decided to join the military because I wanted to be a military aviator, and I chose the Air Force because I think it provided the most opportunities to do that. Went through the ROTC program at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. It's a 4-year academic program with a summer camp in between. So that was really my basic training, so to speak. When I initially went on active duty, my primary station was Fort Rucker, Alabama, which is Army. And they are the ones that train Air Force helicopter pilots initially in what's called undergraduate helicopter training. My job in the Air Force was combat search and rescue, which is the recovery of downed crew members in a hostile environment. The first part of my career was as a rescue pilot, and I think really a highlight of that time was when I was in the Philippines. A new lieutenant, I had the opportunity to do a variety of rescue missions, medical evacuation. We recovered drones in the ocean, supported all sorts of distinguished visitor activities. So that was really a exciting place to fly, and we had a lot of exciting activities to do with our aircraft. Part of my career is primarily what's called a staff officer, which is an administrator or coordinator, and I think really one of the highlights of that was an assignment I had working with NASA. It was space shuttle support, and it's really in the event of a contingency, for example, during a launch, if the space shuttle cannot get into orbit, it can return to Kennedy Space Center, or it could return to, not return, but actually land in Europe. So our responsibility was to coordinate and bring in military people that would support that contingency. We'd bring in aircraft, we'd bring in medical people, we'd work with the astronauts and NASA people who were there, set up, ready to go in the event that the space shuttle couldn't get into orbit and needed to land in Europe, for example. So that was surely one of the highlights of my second half of my career as a staff officer. When you spend 20 years in the military, it's very much a formative experience. And I think one thing that I learned that was essential was the fact that on one hand, you have the mission. And the mission needs to get done. But on the other hand, you have the people and what we call your troops, and they need to be taken care of as well. So what I really thought was, and what I learned from the military, is good leadership is being able to balance those two things, and being able to balance it so you get the mission done and you still take care of your troops. Surely family is an important part of military career. And I remember that as having both an upside and a downside. I think the upside is that they're a part of the move, the travel, the experience, new locations, new cultures. But that moving is also kind of a downside because that can become challenging. Moving frequently every 2 or 3 or 4 years, and people get kind of stuck in places and they don't want to move. So surely that has when I think of the military family, an upside as well as a downside. Over 20 years now. I've been out as long as I was in, and one thing I always enjoy is visiting with other veterans, and it doesn't have to be Air Force, any other branch, and talking to them about their experiences and where we can find common ground. And I just think that's an important aspect of veterans and communication and developing a fraternity, if you will. And it's just something I'd like future veterans to know that they can, when they're out, talk to other veterans. And you'll find that you have a common ground, you have shared experiences, and I'm sure they will support you. Regarding military honors, I have an Air Medal. And that was received because of a rescue mission I was part of when I was in the Philippines. It was off the coast, a good 50 miles off northern Luzon, and a ship had sunk. And the only thing that was left from the ship were these crate-sized wooden structures, and that's what the seamen were clinging to. So once we located them, we were able to put our rescue hoist down. Our crew was able to recover 14 sailors during one mission, so that was surely a highlight for me. In addition, I had another pilot, a flight engineer, and 2 pararescue specialists that were all part of the crew, and we all received the Air Medal for that mission. Following my military career, I had a second career in education, and I think a good part of that, or motivation, was from my experience in the military. Anyone who is in the military at some point is going to be a teacher, an instructor, a mentor, sponsor, all those activities, and I just enjoyed that part, that aspect of being in the military, and carried it over into a second career, which started with public education, and then I went into higher education and actually came full circle, going back to the University of Nebraska at Lincoln and teaching there.